Hi, I'm Kelsey Mastel. This is my reflection vlog over my persuasive speech. What was the purpose of this speech? The purpose of this speech was to persuade our audience to feel the same way that we do about a certain subject. Mine in particular is why you should read more often. We were supposed to use ethos, pathos, and logos, as well as Monroe's motivated sequence, to help convince our audience to feel the same way we do. How did you feel going into this presentation? I felt really good going to this presentation. I had rehearsed and practiced all week in front of mirrors and in front of my little sisters just to see if I could do it in front of an audience without messing up a bunch, and the outline helped us a lot because I think it just organized my thoughts better and it just made it really easy to deliver the final speech. Did your speaker anxiety increase or decrease as you began your speech? My speaker anxiety decreased actually when I gave my speech. Usually I feel like after the introduction I start to worry and then my hands start shaking, but this time it actually felt really comfortable, and I think it might have been part of the note cards, because usually if you have to memorize an entire speech you just feel pressured and you just mess up more often, but I think the note cards helped keep me on track, and it just helped me that my speaker anxiety kind of went away. Was your technology adequately prepared? What could be done differently or better? My technology was adequately prepared. I had my camera set up with the tripod and everything went out as it should. So, in terms of structure and organization, what element felt natural to you? What felt odd? The most natural was the introduction and conclusion, especially my conclusion because I used a personal experience. I talked about how I love reading and how reading at the beginning of the year has changed my life and how it's just the best thing ever, and so it was easy to talk about that because it was my own opinion and how I feel, so it was just easy to deliver that. What felt odd? The internal reviews still feel odd to give. In essays since middle school, all we've ever done is just transitions, and so doing something new like this internal review is just unnatural because I'm not used to saying something like that or repeating the paragraph in one sentence, so it's just new and takes time to get used to, I think, but the next speech it'll be normal by then, I think. How did you consider your audience when developing your speech? How did the audience respond to your speech? I considered my audience because I know none of my family is big on reading. My dad doesn't have time, my mom doesn't have time, and my grandpa, I guess he kind of likes reading, but I think he could read more. And I just wanted to find information that would really convince them to read more often, because I think it's important that we all read, so I wanted to make sure the information I was gathering was everything was beneficial to my speech to persuade them. They responded good. They actually thought it was a good speech, and I think they're more convinced now to go out and buy a book and read it, so that made me really happy. What did you do in your speech that worked? What didn't work? What areas can you target for improvement? I think a good part of my speech was the scholarly journal because it was a personal experience from a lady. She's a college professor, and I shared her story, and I think it was really beneficial because it added to my fourth main point. And instead of just having a ton of information in my speech, I had that scholarly journal so that it had a little extra to it instead of just information. What didn't work, when I give speeches, I tend to stutter a little bit when I get flustered. If I get off my train of thought, and then sometimes I ramble a little bit. Like if I start a main point and then say a sub point, I tend to ramble a little bit on my sub points, but I think I did a little bit less of that than in my first speech, so there's improvement. And then connect your learned experiences to the class readings and concepts, include at least one specific chapter. Okay, I chose chapter 13 because it was a chapter on persuasive speeches, and then I chose page 122. It talks about stage 4, integration. This is when the audience finally accepts what you say and is persuaded to go out and do the action. My mom is always kind of stood up against reading, not stood against it, but she never has time because she has me and 3 other kids, and so she never has time, it seems. But she told me after the speech she was more interested in reading, and I told her I'd even buy her a book if she'd read it, and she agreed, so it made me really happy that my speech persuaded someone to do what I was hoping. So, thank you.